Hey guys, it's Sasha and I just changed my shirt to act like I didn't pre-film. And this Reason to Reads video, we're going to be talking about a lot of books. The first book I'm going to talk about is Elements of Style by E.B. White and William Strunk Jr. And I had to read this for school. It's a quick read, easy read, a lot of helpful information. So if you're, like writing a whole bunch of papers or you just like to write, I feel like this would be a really good book. I rated this book 4 stars. The next book I'm going to be talking to you about is 100 Best Poems, and this is just a compilation of a whole bunch of different poems from a whole bunch of different poets. I also had to read this for school, and poetry is as poetry does. I like some of the poems in this book. I didn't particularly like all of the poems in this book, but it was still a nice book to read. I rated it 4 stars. The next book I'm going to be talking to you about is another book I had to read for school, and it is On Writing Well by William Zessner. This is a guide to nonfiction writing. It was insightful, creative. I liked Zessner's voice throughout this book. It was helpful for writing nonfiction. I thought it was a really good book to read, and I'm glad I read it. I rated this book 4 stars. The next book I had to read was The Outliers, The Story of Success by Malcolm Gladwell, and I also had to read this one for school. Half these books I had to read for school in this wrap-up. That's how behind I am in my wrap-ups. I rated this book 2.5 stars. It was an interesting book, but it was also a confusing book. I'm not quite sure what the main purpose of this book was. Was it to say that success is based on luck? Because he talked a lot about statistics, like where you're born, what age you're born at, the decade you're born at. Like in Canada, if you're born in the later months, then you have a better chance of becoming a professional hockey player. Does that mean boo you to the people born in September and November, and you who are born in January and February, wow, you're gonna be more than likely a great hockey player? I don't feel like it was that good of a self-help book. I just didn't really get what he was trying to drive at. I didn't really get the main point of this book. I did like the stories he had to tell in the book. Those were interesting. So that's why I have a kind of low rating on this book. I think I might take this book down to actually 2 stars. I'm not sure why I had a half star. The next book I had to read was Money, Possessions, and Eternity by Randy Alcorn, and I really enjoyed this book. I had to read it for school for my economics portion, and I found this book to be super enjoyable. I love, before he gets started in the book, he says, that I'm quoting from him, I'm looking at it right now, "There's something in this book to offend everyone. Some of it offends me, and I wrote it," and that just had me laughing and rolling on the ground before I even picked up this book. This is such a great book. I loved all his points in this book. I thought, I think everybody should read it. It's dealing with money, how you use it. It's coming off a Christian point of view, so if you're not Christian, you might not understand some of the stuff he's driving at, but I really did enjoy this book. It made me very self-reflective. It made me think about all the things I do and how I spend my money, how I handle my material possessions, all that kind of stuff. I would like to buy this book to have in my own collection, but that's for another time. I rated it 5 stars. That's how good I thought it was. The next book I'm going to be talking to you about is Moll Flanders by Daniel Defoe, and I did not really like this book. I thought I was going to like it. I've had this book on my shelf for 2 years now. It wasn't really an enjoyable novel. It was an interesting story plot line, but it just didn't come together for me the way I wanted it to. Moll is an unbending person who experiences many horrible things happening to her, and she just never breaks. I just want to know, how come this book has no chapter breaks? What happens to all of these children she have? She has a child, we talk about it for a little bit, and we never hear, see, or speak of that child again. And we spend a lot of time talking about her thefts but we spend very little time talking about her 5 husbands and the life she spent with each of them. I really couldn't stand the decorative writing. I mean, there were no breaks. So the paragraphs were long, sentences were long. Since there's no chapter breaks, that kind of made it worse. This book was definitely plot driven. I don't think Moll was developed as a character as well as she could have been. Like, she just keeps on sinning and she feels sorry about it, but she never repents and she never tries to stop herself from not sinning again. And I'm just like, we're not really learning anything here. Moll's not really growing, developing, changing at all. She's kind of stayed stagnant throughout the whole book. Moll traveled a lot, but there wasn't a lot of description about the different places she went to, different locations, so it all kind of felt like one overall meshing, you know, like world. It didn't really feel like we were going different places or doing much, and overall I felt like it was just bogged down by ostentatious writing, so I rated this book 2 stars. Next book I'm going to be talking to you about is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and I loved this book. I love Jojo Moyes' voice as a writer. I love her writing style. I've heard people say it's, you know, like, I guess dry British humor, which I guess I do enjoy because I really like this. I really enjoyed how this book was formatted. We hear mostly from the main character's perspective, but occasionally we do hear from a side character's perspective, which I thought really added some flavor to the book. I came into this book expecting it to make me feel a lot sadder than I actually felt. I did want to cry, I did want to shed tears, but none really came like to my eyes, and that in itself made me feel kind of sad. The end of this book had me like, why oh why? I thought the family dynamics in this book were great. They were very raw and real. They weren't like, oh, happy day, happy family. They showed that, you know, real family has a lot of problems. Real family is not cookie cutter. Will was by far my favorite character. I loved him so much. I rated this book 3.5 stars. Next book I'm going to be talking to you about is The Crown by Kira Cass, and this book was a disappointment for me. I didn't really like the first 3 books in this collection series, and The Heir was better than the first 3. In fact, The Heir is my favorite book out of all the selection books. This book was a kind of disappointment for me because I was like, yay, she's going up with The Heir, and then it just came back down with this book. I do have a review on this book. I do believe it is spoiler free, and I'll be linking it in the description and in the card, so if you want to find out more about my thoughts on this book. But I rated this book 2 stars. The last book I'm going to be talking to you about is Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, and I had to read this book for school. In fact, this was the final book I had to read for school in my lit. I found this book to be very dry and just bogged down with a lot of, I don't know, information. It's supposed to be like action-y, science fiction-y, but it doesn't really seem to, like, I don't know, take you much places. I just didn't really enjoy overall, like, the overall writing style, I guess. I did like the elements of this book. The ending was very interesting. I do want to pick up, I think there's an next book to this. I do want to pick that up. Overall, I found the plot kind of slow. I did like the plot. I found the games that the kids play to be kind of unbelievable. Also, the friendship between some of the characters I found to be unbelievable as well. 6 or 7 years old. Some of the things they were doing I didn't really find believable at all. I know it's supposed to be science fiction, but I just didn't find some of the stuff to be very believable. But I do think this book is a nice intro into the genre of science fiction, and I rated this book 3 stars. That's all for now. I'll catch y'all later. Don't forget to check out my book, learn all my social media links. They'll be in the description down below.